In the spring of 1991, Los Angeles was a city on edge. Tensions between communities were rising, trust in law enforcement was deteriorating, frustration over poverty, violence, and racial inequality simmered beneath the surface. Then on Saturday morning, a tragedy occurred that would leave a permanent scar on the city. A 15-year-old girl named Latasha Harlins walked into a neighborhood store. Minutes later, she was dead. More than 3 decades later, her story remained one of the most heartbreaking and controversial cases in American history. This is the story of Latasha Harlins, a teenager whose life was cut short, a case that ignited outrage, a name that continues to symbolize unanswered questions about justice in America. Born July 14, 1975, Latasha Harlins grew up in South Central LA. Friends and family remember her as energetic and full of potential. Like many teenagers, she spent her days balancing school, friendships, and dreams for the future. But life had already presented challenges. Years before her death, Latasha experienced the devastating loss of her mother. Despite the pain, she continued to move forward. Who knew or believed she had a bright future ahead. Nobody could have imagined how quickly that future would disappear. On the morning of March 16, 1991, Latasha entered Empire Liquor Market in South Los Angeles. Surveillance footage showed her walking through the store before selecting a bottle of orange juice, which should have become an ordinary, like a real purchase. Like, it shouldn't became a fatal confrontation. A dispute developed between Latasha and the store's owner, Soon Ja Do. The situation escalated pretty quickly. Witnesses described it, a physical struggle between the two. Then something important happened. What I'm about to show you right now is, please be careful. It's going to be viewer discretion advised, because I'm going to show you what happened to her. How about, it was very senseless about the things that I see. She was turning away, and she was beginning to head toward the exit. Now, you can make your own assumption of this whole thing when you watch the surveillance tape of this. At that point, many would probably expect the story to be over, but it became more of a tragedy. Ja D retrieved a handgun and fired a single shot. The bullet struck Latasha in the back of her head. The teenager collapsed to the floor. She died shortly afterward. She was only 15 years old. An investigator reviewed the scene. One detail would capture natural attention. Latasha had money in her possession. For many Americans, that detail becomes symbolical of a larger question surrounding the case, like questions about assumptions, questions about fear, questions about whether the outcome could have been avoided. News of the shooting spread quick through LA. Community members demanded accountability. Civil rights leaders called for justice, and the case soon became a flashpoint in an already tense city. These things that just happened when Rodney King riots just happened 2 weeks after. To understand the impact of her life, we're gonna dive deep into it. 1 week earlier, the nation had watched a video footage showing Rodney King being beaten by Los Angeles police officers. The images shocked millions of people around the world. No, I will not show this on my channel. Many black residents felt frustrated with what they have viewed as unequal treatment under the law. This is the aftermath of what's happening. Trust is when you trust in somebody, you got trust. You feeling secure. But trusting in institutions was already fragile as it is. Latasha's death intensified those feelings. So for many people, her story represented something much larger than a single incident. It became a symbol of what? Let's say it together, y'all. Vulnerability. You cannot be vulnerable out here. but leaving open spaces for things. We all don't have invisibility. We all vulnerable, you know? Her story represented something much larger than a single incident. It became a symbol of frustration, a symbol of a justice system that many believe did not even value every life equality. They didn't care about us, man. That case eventually went to trial, right? And we're gonna talk about it right here. Man, prosecutors argued that the shooting was unjustified and sought significant punishment. The defense presented its own interpretation of events. After reviewing the evidence, the jury convicted Soon Jun-do of voluntary manslaughter. The conviction appeared to signal accountability, but the sentencing phase will create even greater controversy. Many expected prison time. Instead, the judge sentenced her due to probation, community service, and financial penalties. She served no prison sentence following the conviction. The decision spread outrage through LA. Community leaders condemned the sentence. Activists organized demonstrations. Many residents viewed the punishment as insufficient, considering that the loss of a young life. Damn, we just went to Rodney King. We doing this shit again? You understand? Man, in April 1992, another event changed everything, especially Los Angeles, California, and around the world too. The officers involved, you know what I'm saying, in the Rodney King beating were acquitted. Man, the verdict triggered days of unrest, protests, violence, and destruction throughout the city. LA uprising became one of the most significant civil disturbances in American history. Rodney King case became the defining image of unrest. Many residents pointing to Latasha Harlins as another crucial piece of evidence, bro. For countless people, her death represented a wound that really have never healed. A year had passed, but many still believe justice has not been served. Her name appeared in conversations, of course, you know what I'm saying, community meetings across the city. The anger surrounding her case have never fully ever went away. It simply became waiting beneath the surface. Especially Tupac, he was deeply affected by it. And you know, throughout Tupac's career, he repeatedly referenced her story in his music. He saw Latasha as more than a news headline. To him, she represented the struggle faced by countless young black Americans growing up in communities affected by poverty, violence, and systematic inequality and oppression. Throughout his songs and interviews, Tupac helped ensure that her name would never be forgotten. Her story became part of a larger conversation about justice and accountability and the value of human life. Man, today, more than 30 years or more later, Latasha Harlins remains an important figure in American history. Not because she sought fame, not because she wanted to become a symbol, but because her death forced people to confront difficult questions. Questions about what? Race. Questions about fairness. Questions about how communities respond when trust in the system begins to break down. Most importantly, remind us that every headline is a human being. Daughter, a granddaughter, a friend, a young girl with a dream, ambitions, and an entire future ahead of her. On that morning, March morning of 1991, Latasha Harlins walked into a store expecting to buy a bottle of orange juice. She never made it home. Yet decades later, her name continues to be remembered. Not simply because how she died, but because her story became part of a larger struggle for justice, equality, and recognition. And for many people, that story is way far from forgotten. So I want you to remember this. And when this video goes off, remember her name, Latasha Harlins. Rest in peace. Doug's Mansion with Tupac. Peace.